I'm still digging into vibe coding and Claude code and whatnot. It's more hobbyist at this stage. It's not that I don't use any of it that has been built for me by my partners, but it's not been my number one focus is to learn how to be a Claude code master. However, I do need to be better at this, and honestly, as our business gets bigger, my engineers are going to have less and less time to make whatever whim I have. So I've been playing with it, and I had a interaction with a good friend who was talking about how there is thought that just custom software is going to go out the window. Even SaaS, just like the single solution, and with this, you tell Claude what I want, and it makes it for you. And there's yes, that's simplifying it, and there can be bugs, and it can be not great. But one of the first things I did was just as I was learning the how to do it and what editor I wanted to use, and should I use Cursor or whatever. One of the I wanted to make fun things, and so one of the first things I built was a typing game. I played a typing game when I was younger. It was like Missile Command, where things would fall down and hit one of your bases at the bottom, and you had to destroy the missiles before they hit. And except this was letters and then words, and it started in your home key and it got broader. And of course, I did this when I was a kid, and it made me an incredibly fast typist. And so I was like, oh, I'll make that. Make a Missile Command game, just like the whatever missile. It has this many bases. It does this. It has this style, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. It's a typing game, so it starts with the home key and it gets more complicated and it gets to words and it speeds up and it measures your typing speed and so on and so forth. And gave it that instruction, and it's there. It didn't work. It had a couple bugs in it. That you type in the word and it would light up and it wouldn't get destroyed. So I go, oh, there's a bug. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. It goes, you're right. And it fixed it. And then I ran it again and it worked. I had looked for similar games in the past, like when I was talking about people, it's like, oh, I want to give this to my kids, and there'd be different games, so it wasn't exactly what I wanted, and I just made exactly what I wanted in half hour, and putting aside all the socioeconomic, cultural implications of that, we also built something for me to use internally for our prospecting, and for reaching out to people, and said, this is what I want. This is how I want to organize it. I don't want to use Google Sheets anymore. I want to do something where I have this and that and the other thing and yada, yada, yada. And we built it. And we revised it, but it's a completely internal piece of software that basically only I and I think a few other people are using. But it's what I wanted. And I customized it to me. And then I think about all the times I've used software where it feels like, who was this made for? Was it made for everybody? It's got every feature under the sun. 90% I don't care about. The 10 features that are there, 5 of them, the 10 features that I care about, 5 of them work fine. The other 5 are awkward to me. And imagine if I said, look, I don't need any of this garbage. I only need this. And this doesn't work the way I want it to. And so now I can go trial a piece of software. I can take some screenshots. I can go through some workflows, and I can say, this is what I don't like. And now I can take those, I can put those into Claude, and I can say, this doesn't work for me. This is what I'd like. I'd like to do X, Y, and Z. And then it's going to build it. What if you're a SaaS, if you're a big SaaS product, I mean, you're like a Salesforce and you rely on enterprise scale and blah 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 blah. I think obviously to a certain degree, if you're having thousands of people use your software, it's going to be convenient to have someone owning that, and sometimes it's just convenient to have that person be a company that you're paying. But for so many smaller companies, for people who, oh, we can't afford Salesforce, we can't afford HubSpot, we can't afford whatever tool that costs money. And a lot of them, they get you in cheap. Oh, it's free for 10 users. So if you're a small business, you can still use this stuff. That's happening. And I think if you're a SaaS company and you are on a user seat basis and you are not offering free for small business, you're making a mistake, because you want to offer these things for free get people in the door. Then if they grow, you get them. And I think a lot of people are doing that. But even with that, that's again, if I'm using a free product, but I'm like, this is just way not what we need, and I can go make something in a half hour, a day at best, that's functional for me and my team, that's exactly how we want it, exactly works with our business, exactly for what I need, and I can have us build it ourselves, own it ourselves, and then we want to add a feature, we say, oh, I want to do whatever, blah, 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 and you tell it, and it's in. There's no, oh, it's on the roadmap. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, that, yada, yada, yada. And there's no, oh, I have to go through a drop down for 300 things that I don't care about in order to do the one thing I do. There's no awkward, oh, this is awkward, let's streamline this. We don't use any of that. You just make your own thing. So I think my friend who was telling me this, and I don't think it was his original thought, and I hadn't really thought about it, but I think that a lot of kind of functional computer programs, apps, I think we are moving to the point where really, I mean, it's still a little bit too much. Like, certain people that are not technical at all are going to have trouble with Claude Code. They're going to say, open up the terminal. There's a lot of people, the tech people who are doing this stuff, they go, it's easy, and it's easy for you. I used to get in trouble for saying stuff was easy, because to me, easy meant I knew how to do it. And easy, and then I would get yelled at because people say, well, they think that means it's inexpensive. Well, this is easy if you have the right technical mind still, but I think it's going to get even easier. It's going to get to the point where it's kind of like you're just going into the AI browser window and say, and it's almost there, but as simple as, this is what I want, this is what I want it. And the more information you give it, the better it's going to be. This is the interface I want. This is what I want to have in the database. These are the actions I want to take. These are the buttons I want to have. If you really say, this is what I want, and you put it in, it's going to make it. And so really it becomes a question of like having a good information architecture, a good user experience. But even with a user experience, Claude's pretty good at that. It's using that stuff. So, yes, industrial level up, like when you're really at a pro level and you want that pro experience, it's not there really yet. You need a lot of guidance. You need a UX expert. You need people to say, here's how you want to ask for what you want. You're saying you want this, but here's how you need to prompt it. And so I think, kind of going back to how things have been for a while, a good UX designer, a good information architect, kind of combined into one, someone who's like, I understand how humans use things, I understand information, I understand what problem you have and how you need to solve that on a regular basis. Tell me about what problems you have, tell me about like what you need to do and how long it takes you. Okay, we can do this for you, and you can actually, instead of doing X, Y, and Z, we can put that all in one place. How does this look? Work with it. And then once you have it designed, when you have, here's how it's going to look, here's the information architecture and how we're going to contain the information, here's the actions it's going to take, and you put that in, the programming of it is not the issue. So I think because we're moving into this world where we're going to have a lot of software. I mean, think about like phone apps and things like that. Like, no one had that before, but the explosion of people being given the code, being able to make an app and putting it on there, this is going to exponentially go beyond that, where anything you need to do on a regular basis, if you're doing it for work, you're doing it for personal, you're doing it for whatever else, right now you look out for, I need something that solves this problem. And we're going to get to the point where you just go there and say, I need something that solves this problem, and it's going to build it for you. However, I think if you really want it good, you need to learn how to organize that information and know what makes a good user experience. And that's going to be helpful, at least in the short term. But longer term, I think a lot of SaaS stuff is really in danger, because again, if I wanted to go out and recreate a lot of these SaaS products that cost tens of thousands of dollars for bigger companies, hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, I don't know what's stopping a lot of places from just jettisoning that. So I would not myself be putting money into investing into companies that are SaaS at the moment. I think the long term there is probably low. But what isn't going to be low for people is knowing what a good interface is, talking to people to understand their problems, their business problems. What do they need? What is causing you these problems? And then being able to translate that into something useful for them. Because I do think a lot of people have problems, but they can't necessarily envision a solution. And even if they can envision a solution, it's not necessarily a good solution. So people that are able to understand user experience, understand information architecture, and are able to understand business problems and understand how people work, and then come up with those solutions and then feed that into Claude Code or whatever like that. I think that's still going to be useful going forward. So anyway, just a random thought.